Hello everyone, welcome back to Adventures in Arcane Space. Once again, I'm your Dungeon Master, AuldDragon, and the players are...
Hi, I'm David Big Mac. I'm David Big Mac Shepherd, and I play Braxon Miacc, who's a human fighter from an asteroid near Brow.
Hi, I'm Dakami-sama and I play Solas of Ebha, who is Half-Elven Cleric Mage of Ogma.
Hey, I'm Ockar. I'm James. I play Ockar, human paladin from Brawl.
Hello everyone, I'm Salem Motor. I play Finnel'ar Mohani, a druid from Greyspace.
Hi everyone, I'm Levalithana, an elven wild mage.
Hey there, I am Zach and I play the character of Lafdul Moonglade, a specialty priest thief from Realmspace, and his gimmick is coming with fun titles. And his current title is based on the player today, because, his title is the Unsaintly Practitioner of Peculiar and Pretentious Pies, because he thought he could make a pie and it ended up like a soup. The topping was very, very, very hard. It was like brick hard. I mean, the soup tastes nice, the contents taste nice. It's a win in a way.
That's what I said on Discord. That's the most important part.
Can Lafdul use the top half of a pie as his holy symbol?
If I stole it, wouldn't last very long now.
It would definitely not last very long.
It'd be like a day holy symbol.
I'm just still chuckling that James almost introduced himself as Ockar playing as James again.
Yeah, everyone was doing that.
Yeah, you have to change your name legally if you keep doing that.
So, we left off last week. The party had just arrived at a kobold port here in this crystal sphere that they don't know where it is. They're lost in Wildspace now, and they have to try and find their way home. The port is a pretty good-sized port. You'd probably put it as similar size to Brawl, give or take. Considering the fact that most of the residents are smaller than most of the residents of Brawl, makes a little bit of a difference. Many of the buildings are pretty squat, built out of stone blocks, that sort of thing. You do see a handful of goblins, hobgoblins, ogres, illithids, other races about the port, especially down here in the docks. Some of the other ships in port are clearly non-goblinoid races. And you've paid the fees for docking, and there's a group of kobolds that have come over from the shipyard, and they're talking amongst themselves. They're at the edge of the dock, looking over your ship, keeping out of the way and everything like that, and it's fairly unobtrusive. But they're obviously looking at your ship, pointing to things on it. You can see some of them taking notes, that sort of thing. And otherwise, most of the people in port are generally ignoring you. You were asked if you had any cargo to offload, whether you'd need to hire a longshoreman, and you did say no to that. Otherwise, it's up to you guys to decide what you want to do.
I think we were trying to find the Arcane Embassy here on this port.
Yeah. When we came into the portal, did it look like there was anything going on the underside?
You didn't get a good look, but there's definitely stuff down there.
Right.
And you can see that the port itself is kind of floating in space between a stalagmite and a stalactite in this massive cavern.
Yeah.
And the tops of those have been worked. They're cut into, carved. Looks like there's probably some mines, definitely some fungal fields, and these are gigantic stalagmites and stalactites. herds
So
of
does
some
this
sort
thing-
of creatures, that sort of thing.
Does this thing actually sort of get gripped by the two?
No, it's a few miles away from each of them.
Right.
Like, it wouldn't
Cool.
take any time for a spelljamming ship to get there, and even for one without a helm, it really wouldn't take very long to get
Yeah.
between them. But it's still a pretty hefty distance in terms of actual physical distance.
All right. Did it seem like there's anything like a castle or anywhere that's off limits? Not that we want to go there, just to know to avoid places.
There is a large building in kind of the upper central point of the town, and beyond that, there's kind of a bit of a cliff face on this asteroid. You can kind of think of it like a bit of an L-shaped. At least from what you can see, you haven't been able to see the underside very well. And there's a whole lot of holes and burrows in that back wall. You would probably guess that that's like the poorer section of town. Like the kobolds that can't afford actual houses live back there.
Yeah.
There is a large central building, not exactly a fortress. And there is also a tower that you've seen similar constructions to that before. That looks arcane.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
How obvious is spellcasting if it lacks somatic component?
You can try to hide it. It depends on what the spell is, what it does, and stuff like that.
It's the wizard version of tongue spell since it only has vocal component and material component that is a small clay model of cigarette that shatters when the spell is pronounced.
Yeah. So again, not having a somatic component does mean that you're not waving your arms around or something like that.
Mhm.
But you do have to like intone these words that it's not like whispering, it's not like speaking. It's you
Yeah.
kind of have to have that deep voice. I'm casting the spell kind of thing. You could try to be as quiet as possible about it, but you can't just whisper it.
Yeah, but it's something that could be, for example, that shattering clay ziggurat could be hidden by your hand.
I mean, you could just put it in your pocket, leave it in your pocket.
Well, yeah, or something like that, and
Yeah.
the other party members could basically give cover by doing something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, like if it matters to not be noticed, then
Well,
there's checks that I would make for people
Yeah.
who may watch it.
Yeah, it's just that I remember the kobold we talked about this portal last time, telling that it would be preferable if you did not cast tongues, even just to speak with others.
Well, spells, yeah, he said.
Yeah, yeah. Well, spells in general, yes.
So again, it's gonna be dependent on the situation if people notice it and how they react.
Yeah.
You did get some directions to a few places if you wanted to try to go to them. Both
Yeah.
the Arcane, which does match the that tower, some taverns, and some basic some goods shops and stuff like that.
Maybe we should go see the Arcane first, see if there's any any sort of time when we have to meet them.
Yeah, I was
No.
gonna suggest that too.
Lafdul's going to somehow use some aniseed to cover up his scent, so to speak, if he can. He's gonna, well, he's got like, that's like vials of like aniseed that you put down to stop someone from tracking. It's like dog scent cancellation.
Yeah.
He's gonna try and use that to make him smell ever so slightly less like an elf if he can.
Have we got
Um,
anything?
That's what he's trying to do. Whether or
Yeah,
not
no.
actually...
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just wondering if you might have something better than aniseed. I don't know if aniseed, because some of those things that you put down, it's supposed to kind of be like, if the dog sniffs it, then it's
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a bad,
I've got
it's a
that as
sharp
well.
smell. I don't.
Yeah, I've got two things. One's
Lafdul.
what?
Instead of using something like that, just use a strong aftershave.
You're presuming Lafdul shaves.
Well, or something along those lines, perfume or something.
Yeah, but I assumed we also left the ship at this point.
Finn
We are
has,
still on the ship.
Finn has an assortment of cooking herbs. I'm sure we can make you smell like you just came out of a kitchen.
Yeah, oh yeah, if we're on the ship, there's plenty of things I can use.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
still on the
we
ship.
are-
You're still on the ship.
Alright, then yeah, I
Yeah.
will... Do I need to use my disguise proficiency, or is it just I grab something?
Have some garlic.
For that, you don't need to use your disguise proficiency.
No, I
Yeah,
would
for example,
recommend that to Leverett as well, because the orcs and hobgoblins, they always seem to smell elves for some reason. It's like they have a better smell. They would notice an elf a mile off. I mean, I don't know about your polymorph smell. That might hide it. But...
Do we have
Will
any
it?
cheese?
Old
I'm sorry.
polymorph self. Would that hide
Oh yeah.
the smell?
Yeah, because you're...
You would smell like whatever you
physically
turn into.
transformed.
It's only an illusion might not. If the illusion doesn't say that it changes your scent, then it might not.
Okay.
Solas is just using his aftershaves and perfumes that he has in his grooming kit. I mean, you have to look presentable when you're a scholar.
Okay. I can't determine for sure if aniseed is one of those things that has a very sharp smell. So if you want to use just general stuff on your ship, that's
yeah,
fine
it's
too.
just
Okay.
just anything that I can think of that.
Do we have any cheese?
It's not
in the food
overpowering. It's just something that would just cover it up.
Yeah.
Basically.
store? Just carry around a cheese.
Not all cheese
If-
smells.
True.
No,
Also,
brie
if-
doesn't
if-
smell.
If Lafdul does have problem finding something, Solas will lend his aftershaves and such.
I don't
I
think
mean,
Lafdul's going to have a problem finding stuff. There's plenty of
It's like
cooking
incense,
herbs
like
and
just
stuff.
burn some incense.
Yeah.
They'll just be covered in smoke.
Okay. Anyone else making any changes?
But I have a question.
Mhm.
I was under the belief, and many comments always pointed towards that elves don't actually smell. Am I wrong?
They don't sweat.
Yeah, they don't sweat, and for now, I'm gonna say that it might be the absence of smell that gives them away, or something
Mhm.
like that. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and take a look at something like the complete Elf's Handbook to know for sure. I don't know offhand if.
It's like always being clean. You've always got like that clean smell about you. That could be like a smell in itself, so
Right.
to speak.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that could still give it away. That's not specifically like you smell like a certain thing. Like I don't know how much humans have a scent in real life that's distinct to humans. Obviously, like there are things that can change your personal scent, not just in in terms of what you eat and use as soaps and stuff like that. Outside of sweating, like if I don't know how much humans actually have a real scent to them, so I don't want to dive
Well,
into that.
I think humans have got scent glands in certain places, but
Mhm.
whatever. I'm
they-
assuming that certain animals that have got scent ability can pick up on
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's usually because of sweat.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's
So-
also an element of attracting the opposite sex and that sort of thing
Yeah.
in in creatures that have a male and a female. So,
So-
like maybe an illithid doesn't need to
Yeah,
have
no.
sex.
So I mean, my point being that no, I without looking it up, and I don't care to look it
Yeah.
up. I
No?
think it's fine to just use some herbs and stuff like that.
What Braxon would say is it doesn't seem like there's any problem here with humans. At least they don't have any humans they disagree with massively. So maybe our humans can shield the elves by sort of getting in the way and distracting people and stuff.
I know how to keep a low profile, generally speaking.
What I mean is someone can walk in front of you if you want.
Just have the elven members of the party rub on human members of the party to become the scent.
All right, so I think you guys have done enough to disguise sense if that's what you want to do. Any other preparations that you're making before?
Do a final check on the prisoners, but obviously we're limited in time if Level's already cast their spell, so
Yeah.
it's just Ockar and Solas staying behind, at least initially. Or are you
I
going
think-
with?
I'm going with, since we might be able to purchase spell components, and also there might be need for the spells to give other languages than just.
I mean, I took
trade talk.
tongues.
And I'm staying behind to help keep an eye on the prisoners.
You are?
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, if Lever's already cast the spells, we would presumably have done all the other stuff in advance so that we could go straight out.
Well, I think she cast a
I-
spell to converse with the
Oh, yeah.
Dockmaster.
No, I cast the tongue spell. Leva cast the polymorph self.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Okay, anyway, I think probably we should head to the Arcane first, as they're a known thing for us. And then from
Mhm.
there, we can find out if they have people that sell spell components. They might not have a lot of magical people here, or they might do.
The Arcane probably sell them themselves, worst case.
They might do, yeah.
But probably at a cost.
Probably, yeah, they might have a markup on it, but it might be better for dealing with them rather than dealing with a lot of different people. Or we can at least get the lay of the land from them, or their representative.
They might even have charts for us to sell.
Having said that, the Arcane don't usually meet with insignificant people, so we probably
No,
won't be. We probably
a
won't be
bunch of-
meeting directly with them.
Humans that arrived in Port in the Kobold City. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they still might expect us to talk to their underlings.
Yeah.
Would they sell spellbooks?
You'll-
Empty ones.
They're not known to.
It's like, do we have one in stock, basically?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, check.
the main thing that you're almost guaranteed to get from Arcane is helms, ship hulls, and various ship-related equipment and weaponry,
Okay.
both magical and mundane.
So they might be able to sell us a star chart.
Sometimes they sell those, sometimes they don't.
Right.
Or even if they don't sell a star chart, they might have information that might lead us to one.
Yeah. Okay. Let's head off to the Arcane then. Lafdul, you sometimes seem to be very good at thinking about what the local customs are.
Yeah, Lafdul's already cast such a spell and he would have given you a rundown.
Okay. All right.
That was on
That's
the
not
kobold, so that might not apply to.
That was on the
talking-
Portmaster.
Yeah. So that might not apply to Arcane. Just keep in mind.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Are there any
everyone
customs? Are there any customs like everyone walks on the left side of the road or the right side of the road or anything like
Well, I
that?
would have told you, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be role played out specifically what the customs
All
are.
right. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll do anything like that we need to do.
Yeah, the big thing is that it allows you to avoid faux pas. And like I said, if someone had someone cast it with the etiquette proficiency, I would definitely give them bonuses to that. All right. So you, it's going to be the 5 of you.
Yeah.
Finn, were you
all
going?
of us.
Yeah, Finn's going because he would also like to refresh his spell components.
Okay. All right. So you make your way through the bustling streets, and it is pretty crowded. Like there are kobolds darting every which way. Colorful curses hurled about. Some of them definitely give you suspicious looks. Um, there's occasionally an ogre passing through the street, and you can tell that he's just kind of like, not even caring who he kicks out of his way, kind of thing. Definitely a lot of curses follow in an ogre's wake. You observe. But there's also there's a ton of little shops, like butcher's shops and fungal shops selling all kinds of fungal produce, clothing shops, everything that you can kind of imagine. Many little tiny things, little restaurants selling soups and stews and other
There is
varieties of food.
something
Mm-hmm.
that I might keep a mental note out for
Mhm.
is for a particular. I'm just looking at for mushroom based dyes. I assume there's going to be an occasional unusual rare one or something. It's just something Lafdul would be keeping an eye out for.
Yeah.
Because I imagine they would be more common in this sphere.
I mean,
Whereas they would be quite rare in ours.
there's definitely clothing shops, and they seem to have a variety of colors, although they're definitely more muted. Like, most of the clothing that they're selling is a bit more muted, with the exception of orange. Orange seems quite popular.
It might also be quite common.
Yeah, it could be. I'm just looking for something. I guess it's just something that's a little bit more. It's common here, but it's rare in our sphere, I suppose.
Yeah, you'd probably. I mean, you're keeping an eye out, so you're making some mental notes, but you'd probably have to circle back around to some of these places
Yeah,
to
so
get
if
more
I
information.
if I don't notice it, it's just a casual glance for.
Braxon's going to keep an eye out for any symbols that are familiar to his religion.
All right. You. One thing that you'll note is that while Brawl's thoroughfares are not exactly polite affairs, this place takes it up a step. There's a lot of bumping and jostling and stuff like that. You luck out by being taller than the vast majority of creatures around, so that does seem to offer you some additional protection. But there's a lot of bumping and jostling, and occasionally scuffles and fights breaking out by people bumping into each other, kobolds bumping into each other specifically.
Yeah.
Lafdul will mention to the party, just keep an eye on your parses.
Okay.
If there's a lot of bumping around, that's how you lose them.
Yeah, Solas
Especially
is
when
keeping
it's
his-
normal.
Solas
Oh.
is keeping his money and other valuables basically inside his clothes.
Are there any ogres going the direction we're going?
You're going to follow in the wake.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Basically, they barge everyone out the way. We fill the gap in.
Not really, and there aren't that many ogres. It's
Okay.
just like one or two you see, and they don't really leave a wake. It fills in real fast right behind them. And there's the wake is more in terms of cursing and kobold. But you do eventually make your way to this tower complex. It's made out of stone. Um, you kind of wonder if magic may have been involved in the construction of it. It's not super tall. It's certainly not the largest arcane structure you've seen before. Um, the arcane warehouses back on Brawl take up more space. Um, but it's certainly impressive compared to everything else around here. Which is not to say that the kobold construction is bad. It's your dwarven friends would probably not have much good to say about it, but it's solid. It certainly is serviceable. It's not exactly pretty. Like they're definitely not building for aesthetics values.
Yeah. Would
Yep.
would Braxon have heard the rumours of the arcane warehouse sort of being bigger inside and stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, so that he might be expecting the same sort of thing here.
Well, again, it's just a rumor. And the places where you meet with Arcane and Arcane agents on Brawl is there. It's definitely not bigger in those places, but
Right.
no one is known to have gotten into the warehouses themselves. The Arcane and their agents certainly
Right.
don't talk about it. And occasionally there will be like this is something that Lafdul would have heard about, and he could still like, oh yeah, I heard it in a seedy tavern, not the kind of place that you'd want to go to. He's heard some stories about thieves who tried to break in and were never heard from again, that sort of thing. So rumors swirl, and there's no hard information about any of that in Brawl. So you get to the structure, and it's got kind of a low wall, maybe only a foot and a half high. More to separate it, to make it stand out, around the complex, rather than actually operating as any sort of defense or protection. But there's a significantly fewer number of people going in and out of this kobolds. Like it definitely, the crowd definitely thins out right when you get there. And that's not unreasonable. It's not unexpected. The Arcane tend to deal more in high value goods. Like you wouldn't just go into an Arcane place and just say, "Oh yeah, I just want to buy a dagger." They don't sell the little stuff. They deal in high value or bulk stuff.
Uh-huh.
So you walk up to the entrance to this tower, and it's got large double doors. The doors are about 15 feet high, give or take. They dwarf even ogres. Of course, you've met some Arcane before. You know that they're 12 feet high, so it's definitely doors built for their size. It swings open easily. Like any one of you, even a kobold, could easily open one of these doors, and you enter into a surprisingly brightly lit area. Although not as brightly lit as you might expect. It's more of just the contrast. It still ends up being kind of dim compared to what you've seen in other Arcane facilities. Maybe because of the catering to kobolds and goblins and stuff like that. And there's a handful of rastipedes about dealing with customers. But upon your entrance, one of them comes up. They are, for those unfamiliar, they are kind of an ant centaur in appearance. A large ant-like body with more than just that number of legs. An ant's normal ant's number of legs, and then an upright ant-like torso. But he comes up and greets you upon your entrance. Hello, I am Thrasar. May I help you today?
Leva responds in Rastapede,
Okay.
I guess. Yes, she does, actually. She says,
Oh.
hello. Yeah, she speaks the language.
What language did he speak when he walked up to us?
He spoke in Goblin.
Right.
The tongue spell was still active at this point.
Is
Okay.
it? Okay.
Yeah, it would have still been
Solas
active.
then.
So I would basically translate.
Yeah.
Well,
How
Leva,
long?
do it.
Real fast. How long does the tongue spell last?
Turn.
Clerical version is a turn. Wizard version is round per level.
Right. So, which one did you cast?
I cast the clerical version.
Okay. So you know that that's going to be running out real soon.
Yeah.
So you'd give a quick translation, and then Leva, you would switch to Rastapede to
Yes,
aid communication. Okay.
that's one she doesn't have to think about. She can just talk it.
Yep.
In it.
So you greet him in his language, and he says, "Ah, it is unusual for outsiders to speak our tongue around here. Yes, how can I help you?"
Now I've lost the connection where we are. I heard Rastapede. I forgot.
You're in the Arcane
Oh, okay.
facility.
So what are we looking for with them?
Well, so while you're kind of like talking to the rest, he starts going into kind of a salesman's pitch in Rastapede for you, offering you helms, offering you arcane constructed ships, heavy weapons, magical devices to help locate portals. That all the usual stuff that you would expect to be able to buy from an arcane.
That magical item to locate portals. If we do not have one, that might be useful.
We have one.
How much would that be? Leva asks the Rastapede.
For the portal locator, I mean your
Yes.
Rhaegar device works as a portal locator.
Okay.
But he does give you a price since I mean I can go look up the price if you are serious, but
No.
No.
he
So he
cites
gives us the price.
Yeah,
I pass it on, and we say, "Nah, it's not interesting." But
Potentially a Rastapede translator that can speak Goblin. That's something to consider. Because you can speak Rastapede to them quite easily, so.
is there
So
such a
you
thing?
mean
So she turns around
Yeah.
to the Rastapede and asks, "Is there such a thing, a translator?" Because we
Just
can
for a
speak
day.
Rastapede, but not everybody here speaks to Rastapede.
Goblin.
Rastapede Goblin.
well he's going to be picking up, because you at least mostly look human. If he recognizes any of you as anything else, he's not giving that away. But like you do stand out. Do you want to give him any kind of a thing like, hey, we found ourselves here and we're kind of lost and we need a translator, or are you just going to straight up ask him for a translator?
Let's just have a quick side discussion because did we decide on that? Have we decided what we're going to tell the people? Somebody like that.
We've already told about few people about that. We've been
Oh,
heard
yes,
here
okay.
by the.
Yeah, we're not trying to
Leva-
hide that. So.
Leva will tell this guy the same thing. She will say we stranded here accidentally. We don't actually know where here is exactly. And we're trying to find our way back. So we'd be interested in maybe a chart if you have one. And would you know anything about Crimspace?
Also mentioned that it was the Arcane Storm or what
Cosmic
Was
Storm.
it a
Yeah, it
cosmic
was a
storm?
cosmic storm. Cosmic storm that dropped us here.
That is unusual. Although I think I heard of some others some months back. I can't remember at this time. However, if you need a translator, I suppose I could serve those. I would need to verify the costs with what would he say?
The masters, I guess.
No, because they're hired.
Employers.
Yeah, but I don't know that they would call them employers.
Managers.
Job givers.
Yeah, the manager,
Task keeper.
The boss.
management. I think he would probably say something like management. Yeah, we'll go with that. I would have to check with the arcane management to ensure that it would be okay. It is not normally one of our services that we offer, but given the unusual circumstances, they may make a special dispensation. Now, keep in mind that you're still. There's gonna be an element of telephone going on here because, like, he will speak to other people in Goblin or Kobold. He will speak to you in Rastipede, and then you're speaking to everyone else in Common. Things can get lost in the translation.
Yes,
Mhm.
but with his help, we can easily, if it's something really important, negotiate us being able to cast a tongue spell or something like that without any problems, and then straighten the communication line up.
Okay.
Braxon says to Leva, maybe you should ask him if he's got a translator that speaks more of our languages.
Yes. She turns around. She says, "Do you think that there might be a translator that speaks a language like Common?"
Where the common tongue around here is Goblin.
Braxon, well, does that get translated back from Leva?
Yes, they will translate.
Or if they speak Dwarven or Tinkergnomish or
Braxon
even
will talk.
Orvurmish.
Braxon will talk to him in common and say, "Have you heard this language before?"
Heard it, yes. He's saying this in Rastipede. Heard it, yes, but I am not familiar with it. I do not know the language.
They will translate it back. Solas, Wormish doesn't matter. There's no difference if they speak Wormish. The rest of us doesn't understand. It's just you and me who understand. That's about the same as Rastipede or Trade Tongue.
But it's still more of us understand it than just Rastipede.
Maybe they've got some magical items that allow us to understand people.
It's probably best that we don't speak I was gonna say English. That we don't
Elven.
speak. Don't speak Elven or Dwarven here.
Don't know about Dwarven, but Lara had to hold on to herself that she didn't say Elven by accident.
There was a mention of magical items. Do you want to ask him about that?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
We may actually have something like that. If you will give me a moment to check our inventory.
Yes, no problem.
What were we asking for again?
Magical translator.
Oh. Oh, that'd be
Imagine-
really useful if it's the item I'm thinking of.
An ear trumpet that translates.
Yeah, but it's probably not for free, you know.
No, those
mean,
kinds of necklaces are really expensive.
Mm-hmm. Basically, I would say that it would be, at least Solas would suggest that if there is such item, it would be company item.
Well, not unless that particular person trades for it out of their own money, if they can afford such a thing.
Lever
Yeah.
reminds the others that we don't have enough money to buy stuff as company items. So if somebody wants to buy it and donate it to a company, fine. But no company funds will be spent for stuff like that.
You can always do
Yes,
trade
anyway.
if you have other items that you.
I'm
So keep
just
that in mind.
reminding the others.
Lafdul, what item are you thinking of? There's a couple that I'm
well,
like. There's a couple that I'm thinking
I
of.
know
but
there's a necklace that translates language. I don't know what it's called though.
You don't know what it's
I
called.
just
Okay.
know the description.
Because I was not about to go look at necklaces, and that was not one that I was thinking of. So I'm curious.
I mean, I presume the same effect could be transferred into other worn objects. I assume, but necklace is one of.
Don't see a
Particular.
necklace.
Yeah.
Dreaming of a babelfish.
So he's checking a large tome. It is not written like you can kind of see the writing in it. It is clearly not written in anything that you can understand. Not a language that you're familiar with.
Is it, even if it's something that we don't understand, is it something that we've seen before?
You're not sure that you have.
Okay, so it's not written in one of those books that we don't know the language as well.
No, it is definitely not. You may have seen it before, but it's not written in any of those. Okay. Yeah, I found something. So while he is looking, you can kind of look over. This is also a showroom. There are heavy weapons, and there are placards in front of them. Unfortunately, not ones that you can read, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Solas asks out of...
Yeah?
Solas asks out of interest to Leva ask about what is this written language? And mention that Solas is a librarian and interested in languages.
Leva will ask him.
Well, he's busy right now, so you'd be distracting him. Like this is just like while you're waiting, you can
Afterwards.
look around.
Let's wait until he's done.
Yeah.
Okay. Braxon's going to have a quick look over the weapons. The ship weapons, see if any of them look like something we might want to buy to upgrade
If
ours.
it's got any magical shot or ballista bolts, it might be worth getting. I don't know.
Yeah.
They do have some ammunition, whether it's magical or not. I mean, you could try casting to detect magic or something like that. Again, they're placards; you can't read them. I will let Leva and Solas roll an intelligence check at half their score to see if they may have at least seen what the language is. Okay. That would be enough. Leva, yes. It's definitely Goblin.
Okay. So she recognizes. She tells the others it's Goblin.
Yeah, it's written in Goblin.
Okay.
You've seen it before, but never learned it.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of these weapons made out of wood?
Yes.
Would Braxon be able to have a look and see if the joints look like high quality joints?
Oh yeah, these are the highest quality weapons.
Is it like mushroom wood?
Some
Fungus
of
wood?
them are definitely made out of actual wood.
Oh. Maybe imported.
Yeah. Some of them you're not sure. You haven't seen enough of this mushroom lumber to know for sure how it would look close up. But after about 15 minutes, Throsar does come back to you and says, yes, we do have a ring, but not in stock here. I can either request it shipped from one of our other facilities, or you can go to one of the other facilities to make a purchase. It would actually be in, let's see, hold on a second, I need to look up the name. It would be at Gorlgak's Rest.
Cool, gets rest.
Would he happen to have a chart of this space?
Know where we can get some.
Mm-hmm.
No, we do not have charts. My understanding is that those who ply the tunnels here tend to hire guides.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So there's no chart makers then, so to speak.
Well,
You can
must
set up a
come there.
business here, Solas. You know, you could be a chart maker in the sphere.
Except I make maps of stellar bodies, not of the Wildspace.
Leva asks whether there would be anyone who might show us back to the way to Crimspace.
That I couldn't answer you. It is not something
Does he
that...
even know what Crimspace is?
Well, it doesn't matter if he knows whether there's somebody around who might know, then he can point us to that person, to that creature.
Lever, maybe ask him how much this ring would cost, and where we could find a chart or a guide that would get us to Golgak's Rest.
Mm-hmm. She's asking him.
So he tells you that the ring itself would run you about 8,000 gold pieces. An additional fee if you have it shipped. The Arcane are always willing to take certain items in trade. If you have spare helms, that sort of thing, they can always make trades like that.
Yeah.
He would tell you.
And that ring, what would it actually do?
It would allow you to understand languages.
That's only for the wearer.
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine. Works for one person.
Well, that's one more than we have now.
Yeah. I'd say talk to him as if we're interested in going to collect it, and then he'll be more interested in pointing us towards someone that can get us there. So he talked about tunnels. So we would like to have a map of the tunnels so that we can get there.
Yes. Do you have a map of the tunnels? She asks.
No, we don't. We do not sell charts here. As I understand it, the down at the dockmaster, you can hire ship pilots to help you guide you through the tunnels if you have no knowledge of your own. As I understand it, most of what the navigation is based on the colors of stones near the tunnels, in the tunnels.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
She's passing that on to the others.
Okay. I think we're in Minecraft space.
No, the space was clone space.
We didn't hear. I didn't hear. Leva didn't hear anything about having to dig her own tunnel.
No, but we're going to have to go to the Tinker Gnomes to get a big pickaxe to go on the front of the ship to escape.
Oh God!
Sorry.
Don't forget you can. Yeah,
I'm breaking the fourth wall.
more than that. Okay, so so you don't have charts, and the ring is in another facility.
Yeah, he says
Is
they
there
only
any?
have one in stock.
Yes, and is there? So let me ask the others. Are you interested in any of the other stuff that you see here?
We should explore other options as well, but I'm thinking this gives us a good excuse to get introduced to the other arcane facility.
He is happy to like translate what is on the signs for you.
Oh, yes, please.
They have some helm seekers. That's ammo that seeks after a helm. They have some magical weapons. Most of what they have are extended range ones, but they do have a few that offer a greater chance to hit. They are all expensive. I can look up the prices for those things if you want. He has a full list of he's got major helms, minor helms for sale, that sort of thing.
I forgot. Did we check our room that normally shows us where the planets are? It doesn't work
You
in
did.
the system.
Yeah, it does not work.
Yeah. Do they have?
Or let me rephrase. It may work, but there's just nothing quote unquote larger than size A because it does not show size A.
Right.
Also, it doesn't seem to show that we are inside a
Correct.
large object.
Correct. It shows empty
basic.
space. It does not show these tunnel walls.
Yeah. Braxon says, ask them if they've got anything that does it. What a portal locator does for this sphere.
They do not. He says, this is a very unusual sphere. So far as I know, the Arcane have no other facilities in similar spheres, and there's been no call for developing such a device.
How does one leave this sphere?
Yeah, Leva was
Might be
about to ask exactly the same question.
He says, "Oh, there are tunnels that lead to the crystal shell. You just have to know which tunnel you are going towards."
Right.
And
That's fine.
what's outside? If we
Phlogiston?
leave the shell, what is
Oh, it's
outside?
the phlogiston.
The normal one, and where? What are the closest
normal
spheres?
So he's not fully aware of what all of the spheres are, but he can mention that he knows that the Arcane have some trade routes into other spheres nearby. He lists a few names and he'll give you some basic description of what it is. None of them sound familiar, so I have not developed names for all of these.
Okay.
But he does say that let's see.
So we're going to have to guess.
No, well,
Ooh.
you could guess if you want. I have put places in here in this sphere that you can find an actual way home. Like I wouldn't just not have an actual way home. It's just you're gonna have to find it.
Yeah.
It's not just go to the first port. Oh yeah, just go hang a right at Blah Space and you'll get home. No problem.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
lost.
Different names.
This is going to be following the breadcrumbs to home.
So he kind of goes through a few spheres. You appear to be pretty close to a Lithid-dominated space because he knows of a few that are dominated by Lithids or contested by Lithids.
Yeah.
And you've also heard that there are some Lithid ports in this sphere.
Yeah.
He does mention that there is an unusual sphere nearby that is filled with dead and rotting star beasts, covered in fungus.
Oh,
I think that might be something we want to avoid.
well, hang on.
Probably a dead.
I
So-
doubt we want to try and
Do they-
combat constant fungal infections.
Do they have any books about that here?
No.
Right.
As-
Because
as
Norferic was studying Star Beast.
Ask if we are close to Falkspace.
He says no, but the Lithids could certainly give you assist you in getting there if you wanted to. He's definitely giving you a side eye with that.
Mostly that we don't want to go that way.
Leva also asks him whether we can establish when we are, not just where, but when.
You've already done that with the sending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have not moved through time.
Okay.
Your sending confirmed that with the others, with the
Okay.
Star
Yeah, it
Beast
wasn't
Down
like 5 years ago. I haven't heard of you in 5 years.
Okay, yeah, so you're right.
Now, again, just because this cosmic storm didn't do that doesn't mean that none of them do.
Oh,
I mean, just because this cosmic storm threw us here doesn't mean that every cosmic storm threw you somewhere.
He also mentions that there is a Darrow sphere nearby.
What?
Darrow, they're dwarf. They're a type of dwarf that most people don't want to deal with.
we hang on. Isn't that the guy we dealt with where he was like a head and shoulders or something?
No, that was Duergar.
That
That was Durgar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he also knows some goblinoid spheres nearby. So you're probably close to goblin-dominated space.
Are there any human-dominated spheres nearby?
No, he knows of some spheres, particularly in the Illithid space, where there are humans, mostly as slaves.
Yeah, that would be most likely guess
We're
when
at
Illithids
least
are involved.
two spheres away, probably. I don't know. Actually, no, through the Floodstone connects all spheres, doesn't it?
Not all spheres necessarily.
No, but you don't have to go through the Floodstone to another Grisphere just to get to another end of the Floodstone.
I mean, you can set off into the deep phlogiston, but you don't know where you'll end up, or how long it'll take. The rivers move you faster and they connect things, but spheres can move out of the rivers.
If we
Something
go,
like, something like Athas is outside of the rivers.
Well, it's something.
Leva
we,
asks whether the Illithids bring slaves here.
So far as he knows, they do trade with the Illithids here They do trade slaves with the Illithids here, and maybe some others. They don't bring them to this port to sell. He actually tells you that he knows a little bit of the history. He doesn't know that much. But he can tell you that the kobolds, the goblins, and the hobgoblins are immigrants to this sphere. He doesn't know when they came exactly. He hasn't paid that much attention. But in the early periods before they were able to establish themselves, many were taken as slaves. And so because of that, the goblinoids in this sphere are pretty anti-slavery.
Well, Leva is interested in the history, whether the Illithids ever brought slaves here, especially in this particular case. She doesn't feel it's bad to mention them, especially elven slaves.
He doesn't know anything about that.
Okay.
He does mention
Ask
that
him.
kobolds live a long time, so you could find some old kobolds and ask them. They might
Ask
know
him
the way.
about the recipes. Is this their home sphere, or did they come from somewhere else?
Yeah, she's asking him.
He tells you that the rastipedes here are brought in with the Arcane.
Right. So he comes from another crystal sphere.
Well, he was born here,
He was
but
born here.
the rastipedes are not native here. The communities of rastipedes here were brought in by the Arcane when they established shops. He kind of gives you a little bit of a not like he's telling you like it's an open secret kind of thing. But he mentions that one of the things that has protected the goblinoids is that the Arcane decided to set up their shops in the goblinoid ports.
Yeah.
As he understands it, in the before the goblinoids came, they Arcane had to constantly move around because of infighting and different groups, kind of like, if the Illithids were getting helms from the Arcane, then some of the other groups might retaliate against the Arcane when they were at war, and so they decided to set themselves up as in quote-unquote neutral ports, being the goblinoid ports, and that has actually protected both the Arcane's business interests and ended up protecting the goblins, hobgoblins, and kobolds.
Right.
So,
Braxton.
aren't the Arcane from someplace called Refuge?
Oh, no, they're most definitely not from Refuge. He is vaguely aware of Refuge. It is a major Arcane port. He doesn't know where exactly it is. He's heard it mentioned by the Arcane managers before.
Does anyone outside Arcane actually know what is Arcane's home sphere?
No. And the Arcane don't talk about
I
it.
was thinking. Mm-hmm.
There are rumors that people have offered them like millions of gold pieces for that information, and they always refuse.
Yeah, I think if they were talking about it, they might disappear once they've talked about it, and so would the person who bought the information.
No Arcane, like it. I mean that it's not even. I mean, like there's all kinds of rumors, like they're interplanetary, or there's actually only one Arcane, and he just exists in lots of places. There's all these stories, wild stories, and the wilder the better, oftentimes. One thing that has never been rumored is that an Arcane has sold that information and they've disappeared.
Yeah.
That is not one of the rumors that crops up.
Yeah, there'd be no point in selling that. There's no point in us asking it either. We don't actually need to go to their homeworld. We just need to go somewhere that they have a presence where we can find a way home.
Arcane come from Spelljammer.
Would there be any Arcane that might need an escort to another sphere?
He says he could check, but so far as he knows, he hasn't heard of anything.
We could offer our services to the Arcane while we are here.
So he does say that. I mean, you could, but he says, keep in mind that would be actual bodyguarding. If you have a need to leave this sphere, that would certainly prevent you from doing so.
Well, mostly if they need transportation, and we are still searching way out, so we need
They
to
happen
travel
to know
around
the
this
way
sphere.
out, and they can show us the way out. We can bodyguard them on the way out.
Or if they happen to need a bodyguard to place that we need to go in the sphere.
Right, but so there are there's this Thrasar has given you a number of ways out. They're just not ways out that sound like that you want to take them. They don't sound like ones that would get you closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you guys did decide to take one of those, I'll be more than happy to change around the adventure and go that route. But
If we,
I have definitely like I have a planned way out for you guys because I can't create all of these spheres.
you know, your plan will just change by the end of the episode anyway. So
That's possible.
Any plan of DM survives only first contact with the party.
if we heard of effectively a tunnel sphere, I guess what this might be.
No.
Or have we just heard rumors that spheres could be anything?
You've heard of unusual crystal spheres. You've heard of like herd space. You haven't been there, but it's a sphere where the actual inside of the sphere wall is all habitable, and there are giant star beasts walking around. You've heard of that. You've heard of like nested crystal spheres where when you get inside, there's actually another crystal sphere, and plant worlds are embedded in them. And you have to go through another crystal sphere to get further in, and there's like more crystal spheres. And there's ones that are, you get in and it's like just one flat world from sphere wall to sphere wall, with space above and below it. But no, you haven't heard of any that are effectively just completely filled with rock and have giant tunnels through them.
But one thing what I meant with offering our services to Arcane, for example, he mentioned that Otherport that had the ring that might help us with the translations. For example, if they need to transport goods from here, we could offer bodyguard services for that trip.
He'll take that under advisement. He just hasn't heard of any need for that right now. I mean, he'll make the offer, but he hasn't heard of any need for that right now.
Yeah.
Is the magical items he might potentially have based on what we mentioned rather than him advertising what he's got?
They have too many to really advertise because, like, again, this is a single item that they have in one place. He has some single items here as well, but they don't advertise it. It's more, they might offer to throw it in. Like if you were trading in a helm for something worth less than a helm, they might say, "Here, we'll throw in one of these things too." Or exactly like what you did. Someone comes in and says, "Hey, I need a thing that does a thing. Do you have anything like that?"
Mm-hmm.
So he does have some other one-off items here, and the other facilities have some as well, besides just this ring. But again, it's going to be more of a case of you need to specifically ask for it. He's not going to give a list because that's not how they work with the one-off items.
Lafdul says to you, Lava, is Grumish worshipped here?
Well, she's
yeah,
asking.
Well, the orc patron, I forgot how you pronounce it. Grumsh. Yeah.
Grumsh.
Yeah, it's one syllable.
That's like probably one of the few orc ones that he probably knows.
Yeah.
Due to the time of Corellian.
Yes. So Leva, would you ask him?
Yes.
He says, no. There were. I don't know the details, but the orcs didn't settle here. I believe that they are in one of the There are some orcs in a nearby sphere, however.
She passes that back to Lafdul.
Yeah, I don't have any further questions based on that. You can ask about the drow, actually. Because we're in a cave, they naturally live in caves. I say naturally. They were forced to live in caves.
Braxon's going to ask if they've got any devices for navigating through the phlogiston that would take us anywhere.
Let me see. Give me a second.
I'm guessing the answer's no.
There might be something. I just need to check the War Captain's Companion.
Don't be too pessimistic. Braxon.
We need something that can help us follow the paramagnetic gradient.
That thing that you've never heard of before, yeah.
Yeah, that thing that Brax doesn't know about.
Let's see. I'm not seeing anything offhand, so probably not.
Because that would be the easy thing. If we had something that would take us to a known crystal sphere, we could just follow that.
I mean, there are rumors that the Arcane have sphere locators that, you put it on your ship and you go out into the phlogiston and it'll direct you either to a specific sphere or a just the nearest sphere or something like that.
I think that's what we'd want to ask for, but I'm guessing it'd be too expensive. Otherwise, we just buy that. Hey, that's the end of the adventure.
I mean, it might be something that we need to buy, but this adventure might be just us trying to get money to buy it.
Could be.
Or enough favors with the Arcane.
So they do have something called a Vein of Location, which you can mount on your ship. You can give it a like a planet or crystal sphere name, and it'll point you in a straight line direction to that. The problem with that is, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not like it would take you along the safest route or along phlogiston rivers. It's the kind of thing that you could say, take me to Brawl Space, point me in the direction of Brawl Space, and it may point out into the deep phlogiston. You have to go out there and travel through that for a year to get to Brawl Space.
Right.
Whereas it would only take a few months to travel along rivers.
But it also might be usable in a way that we basically use it to get header from every crystal sphere that we head through from the rivers. That okay, from this crystal sphere we need to head river to that direction.
Yeah, I'm not sure it works that way.
I mean, they can tell you how it works.
Yeah.
Because I do have them in stock, 10,000 GP.
10,000 GP.
The most effective use is finding planetoids, because when they don't show up on charts and stuff like that. But you have to know the exact name.
Yeah.
It could be useful.
Yeah, it might be useful. Well, Braxon's got phlogiston navigation, so what you're saying about taking a heading may or may not work depending on how Ord says phlogiston navigation works.
Right. So
is there any sort of snakes and ladders effect with phlogiston rivers where?
So generally, like when I show you the flow map, those are not real locations. Like, that's not actually they're real.
Not fixed.
They're not just fixed, but it's not even like that's. It's a model of the rivers that take you to them. It's not a model of their actual relative locations in space.
Yeah.
Because,
so it's more of a diagram.
Well, it's a visual representation of you can go from here to there and there kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a visual representation as opposed to an actual map kind of thing. So again, like I can just pull you over to the phlogiston map real fast and give you kind of an example. Like, let's say you were at Realm Space and you said, I want to get to Kryn Space. that has a route, and it may point you along that route, but that route, on the map, it's straight. I got a straight line here. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Phlogiston River is straight. It may wind. It may go up and down. So this thing could mislead you. Like it could point in a, like you know that this river right in front of you is going to take you to Kryn Space because you've traveled it before, blah blah blah, and then you say, point to Kryn Space, to this device, the vein of location, and it points you off to the right because that's actually where it is.
Yeah.
But you have to take this river that's going to wind and wind and wind, but it'll be a lot faster and eventually get you there. So it's not disuseful in, like, it can still be useful in the Phlogiston, but its use is primarily about you get into a crystal sphere and you say, point me to Brawl. I've never been here, but I know that Brawl is here. I need to get to Brawl. That kind of thing. That's more of how it's useful.
Yeah.
Out of interest, Solas asks, does it require something like gems or something else to operate?
No.
Be cheaper then.
It won't point you to people, though.
That's true.
It only points you to locations and celestial
that's
locations.
a thought. Why don't we use our device to find someone we know that would take us to, like, Brawl Space?
I think our device only works within the crystal sphere.
No, it doesn't. Because we found it in Winter Space and we ended up going to Penumbra Space.
Did it find us a Phlogiston River?
We found that cocoon and... Well, we found a lead to someone in Softwood.
The Rhaegar probably would have revealed some more specifics about how it worked, and he would have told you that was a special function of it to take you there. It would not normally work.
It was a plot device.
That was a plot device. And it was a plot device to also give you a magic item that would be useful, but not overpowered afterwards.
Yeah.
But again, even if it did, it would still primarily be a straight line direction. Because again, like, that was a special program in it, essentially, that led you to that location.
No, I was just thinking if we had one of, like, Higamus's items, we put it in there, we try and find Higamus again, that would effectively take us to Forge Space eventually.
Right, but it's not just eventually, it would point you in a straight line direction to it. Which again is going to be like the vein, it could take you off into the deep Phlogiston.
Yeah.
Which is very dangerous.
So what we'd have to do is, if it pointed us into the deep Phlogiston, we'd be picking a Phlogiston River that is within about 30 degrees of that direction,
and hope that it doesn't shift.
And hope that the end of that river is maybe closer, and that we can find a better river from the next sphere. So we'd be like hopping from sphere to sphere to sphere.
Yeah, but one would assume it is an assumption, but it's a probable one that you would be getting closer to a more friendly sphere.
Hopefully,
what I was getting at with the Phlogiston chart is that you look at that, and you're looking at a 2D representation. It looks like a straight line is going over to Kryn Space, but for all you know, Kryn Space is actually up and to the rear.
Yeah.
Because that's where it physically is, but if you just take this one river, it'll just get you right there, no matter how it's winding.
Yeah. I mean, there's that thing for screwing up the Phlogiston navigation, where it gives you the longest possible time.
Yeah.
So I assume we'd be looking at the longest possible time to go between each sphere and the next sphere.
Well, but again, if you're if you're striking out into the deep phlogiston, you're not in any river.
Yeah. No, but I thought that was for getting lost and coming off the rivers that it took that amount of time.
Yeah.
So we'd be looking at a hell of a lot of time, almost running out of food and air, and then we'd arrive somewhere and we'd have to resupply, and then we go off and we do the same thing again. We'd be like 30 years older by the time we got home.
Yeah, like it's one of these things that if you were to talk to an old sea hand about yeah, so how dangerous is just striking out into the deep phlogiston to try and get somewhere? They'll be like, yeah, that's a death sentence, boy.
Yeah,
You don't do that.
I think what we want to find out is are there any organizations that collect information similar to the Seekers on this asteroid or on Gulgak's Rest?
He kind of shrugs, and the best thing he could say is that the temples might have information if you're just looking for general information.
We're specifically looking for information to find out the shape of the universe in this part of the universe.
You could talk to traders. There aren't really organized trading fleets.
Yeah.
Hey, Solas,
Hmm?
don't you need to get your rare magical herbs? They might have it in stock. Because they're rare.
You mean for the suspended animation spell?
Yeah, that's this weekend. It's a long
Yeah,
shot, but they might have it.
I could ask about them.
They're probably particular ones rather than a group of.
Thrasar says that the Arcane don't typically stock herbs, even rare ones. They do occasionally get things like that if they're not just rare, but especially valuable. Like the kind of thing that a crate of them would you'd be able to sell them off for thousands and thousands of gold, kind of thing.
One usage of that herb is 200 gold pieces, so...
That's like pocket change to the Arcane, I suppose.
If you detail that to them, then they might be able to get it, but it would take time.
I mean, you can see if they just happen to have it, if he's not doing anything at the moment.
Well, Old said that they would have to get it.
Yeah, they don't have it in stock. They could order it, but it would take time. He does say that he knows that there are, like you can get some stuff here, especially from the temples, spell component wise, and there are some other apothecaries, like herbal healers and stuff like that. But he says that if you're looking specifically for the more unusual stuff, Old Shagthor's apothecary in the Hobgoblin town of Port Mogoth, or Margoth's medicines in Gorogak's Rest is kind of your better bet. They're the best stocked in the sphere so far as he knows.
Regarding gods and temples, what major, just to name a few, offered reverence here, should I say?
He doesn't know about the other towns, but he does say that
You might have heard of like a major.
well,
god.
he knows of the ones here in this town. He doesn't know about the other towns. But
I'm just thinking if we recognize any of them.
here in Port Carthok, the Protector's Docks, which is actually the shipyard, that's a temple.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the shipyard's a temple.
It's a temple. He says that it's a temple dedicated to the deity Gaknalak. And the other one, there's a temple. He kind of describes where its location is, and you're like, oh yeah, there was a kind of a big building over there that you saw when you were coming in. That's the Vault of Steely Scales, and that's for the whole Kobold Pantheon. Mainly Kurtulmak, but also the other deities.
So probably none of the deities that we recognize. Or at least Lafdul wouldn't.
Certainly no elven deities, certainly no human deities.
Mm-hmm.
Not even Patar.
Nope.
But Patar made the kobolds.
He may have.
Lafdul's like, ha! Have
And he
your
took
own
the side
religious
that-
crisis.
And he may have access here, but...
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying,
But-
James?
It said it's possible that he is not as great as he thought he was.
Or perhaps Star is the Kobold deity and Braxon worships Kobold deity.
I mean,
That's
Thrasar
possible.
has heard of Ptah, but he doesn't know if there are any temples here.
Right. Well, I can ask at the dog sometime if I get someone that can translate.
So are you still interested in hiring a translator?
I mean, for this part it would be useful.
Yeah, maybe for a day. We'll see that we're here.
How
Yeah.
much would it cost?
So he leaves the kind of showroom and trading chamber. Lets you look around some other stuff.
Remember to mention that we also offer possible escort services.
Yeah, no, he will. And about 30 minutes later, he comes back to tell you that yes, I have gained permission to do so. I did ask if there was any need for escorting or protection or anything of that nature, and they do not need anything of that sort at this time. But yes, I can be hired on as a translator for you. It will be 1 silver piece per hour.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hired. You're hired. How about how many hours?
Doesn't matter. It's in
I mean,
silver.
we can pay afterward. No need to, since it's not that expensive.
Oh, actually, how many hours are in a cycle here?
24.
Oh, it doesn't change.
Don't forget, we elves are bound by certain times. Like Leva's spell is 2 turns per level before she turns back into an elf.
That's true.
Well,
Do-
you had a
do we
minimum
need-
time of like an hour, didn't you? If it's a turn a level, I mean.
Well, do you want to go?
Turns a level.
Minimum is 22. Well, no, minimum is 6, not 5. So it's 6. It's 12 turns.
I think all the last time rolled quite good level variation.
But you never know with that.
You don't
Do-
know. He doesn't
do-
tell us with these
No,
things.
that's one of it. What's your minimum? It's what you need to base it off.
Hmm.
Do you want to go back to the ship and arrange for him to meet us tomorrow
Yeah,
or something?
Well, the less time we spend it, the better. So I think it's kind of like do what we need to do here before we
Okay.
arouse suspicion.
Yeah, the other thing is, let me see, she did.
Because we stand out so much here.
She did memorize 2 polymorph selves. So
Could we
that's
not
a
get?
minimum.
Could we not get a few bags and cut eye holes in them?
That would draw attention.
Cut what in them?
Basically, he means that put back on your head with
Oh.
I think you're in the wrong field of work, Braxon, when you make those suggestions. You know, I feel like you're missing out on an opportunity. I mean, just go out there and just see what happens.
We could open a circus.
Come and see the freak of nature, Braxon.
Freak this. Wow.
Let me put a wild search on him first.
Watches some magical Braxon loses all of his clothes.
Or grows a foot of hair everywhere.
Watch him grow leaves. Surprised that's actually happened twice.
I thought the other sign was Higimus and he ate the leaves.
Yes,
It was one on lizard. I can't remember where the other one was.
That was
one
on
was
Higimus.
on Higimus.
Yeah. He was self-cannibalizing.
So, do you want to make arrangements for him to start tomorrow? Do you want to do something now?
I think they want to do it straight away.
How long have we been on the road when we talk about it to him? How long have we talked and spent time getting around?
You've been here at the Arcane facility for at least an hour, maybe a little bit more.
And how long did it take us to get there?
10-ish minutes because the tongue spell was still intact, was still operating.
So, Leva proposes that we go back and get ready, and then we either return or meet up with the guy.
Get him to meet us at our ship in a couple of hours.
Yes. Would that be okay?
He's fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Solas suggests that we go basically today and tomorrow to buy some of these spell components, since at least Solas needs some crafted goods, so he might have to order them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of it might need. I mean, level you need your sending components and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you make a list of everything you want, and when he comes, you can give him
Yeah.
a list. He can
Well,
take it to shops that sell that.
Well, he is coming as a translator and a guide in this case, but
Yeah, I mean, we could
we
say
still need to go and order
blacksmith
them.
or like arcane weaver.
I mean, he knows the major places. He's not really coming as a
Yeah.
guide. He's coming as a translator.
Right.
Well,
Major places is
knowing
good.
the major places, he can direct us that shop is that way.
Most shop signs are done by symbols of like a obvious descriptor, like smithy might be like hammer or something.
Yeah, but this is
It's not usually written.
this is not a port we're familiar with, so we need someone to point us. Okay, the crafters shops are in this section of the town, and
I think the harbour master's office could tell us that sort of stuff.
yeah, well, I think he has shown that he also knows the location. So if he's our translator, he also might be able to tell. Okay, the shop you want is here.
Braxon says, I think at some point we should go to the dock, which is also a temple, because if there's people there that have ships, they will know where we can get charts, and they will know who knows how to get out the crystal sphere.
They didn't really have charts. They hired guides in here to fly between the places.
Yeah, well, okay, so maybe we have to get guides to somewhere, but they'll be somewhere near the edge of the sphere. And unless they want to come with us to another sphere, we'll have someone to point us at the crystal sphere wall at some point.
Yeah, well, but we don't want to leave the sphere now, since currently only routes, the only places outside we know are spheres that we do not want to go.
Wow, we'd have to go to the Floodstone first. Well, maybe, probably.
Yeah, but only nearby spheres that we know mostly are things like illithid spheres, and
Yeah,
At the very least, there's an orc sphere nearby.
so we we still want to be here looking for better routes out.
So one thing to also note is that unlike a normal sphere where you have vast emptiness, you are still like dealing with tunnels, so you can explore if you choose.
Yeah,
And see
we
what
could
you encounter.
probably try to make a map as we go along.
Yeah, well,
Well, I have set this up so that this area up so that
we can,
your explored places are still like you can still see where you've been.
You're
Yeah.
not refogging it.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm
we
guessing.
we can basically have crude map made of what we see.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the map on Roll20 is just part of.
It's just irrelevant
crystal
parts.
sphere.
Yeah, it's just irrelevant
Yeah.
parts.
It's just the parts we've been here.
I
Yeah,
mean, if you decided to strike off and you got to the edge of the map, then I would have some sort of yeah, it doesn't look like there's much out there. It doesn't seem like a good way to go, kind of thing.
It seems like there's tons and tons of rocks in your way.
No, because there's other parts of the sphere that just I just have the relevant stuff here.
Yeah.
All right, so you want Thrasar to come in a couple hours after you've gotten back to your ship.
Yeah, and basically going through our stocks.
Please.
All right, so he's fine with that, and you return to your ship.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do while waiting for him to come?
We
Solas
secure
goes,
Red Node.
Solas goes through the stuff we have in our laboratories and what we need to refresh and what he needs to refresh personally.
Yeah, Lafdul's probably doing the same. Writing up a shopping list.
Okay.
Yes.
And also talking about, like Braxon said, visiting the Dockmaster to basically inquire guides and information about the nearby areas.
Who's doing that?
We can't do that unless we have Lever. And Lever was worried about a spell going pop.
Yeah, this is making plans about doing it, and we are doing it with the translator, I'd say.
Yeah, but the translator is translating into Rastipede.
Yeah, and yeah.
All
but
right.
again,
Let's start with the individual people. And I'm assuming that you've also filled Ockar in on what you found.
Yeah,
Yes,
basically,
absolutely.
basically, Ockar needs to make a list of things he needs to be
It
bought.
seemed relatively easy and short for him though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Do you actually have any mundane components that actually expire? Because you
Not-
only got access to 4 spheres.
Not really. I think all of my components are like
They're all material based, like holy
they're all
symbol,
material based. None of them really expire.
manufactured. I meant, sorry.
Yeah. And only a few of them actually get like used up in the casting. I think only the holy water gets used up.
The sanctuary, if you got access protection.
Yeah.
every spell except every spell component except if it except holy symbol if it doesn't mention is used up.
Well, yeah, okay. But I've got like a few, and I don't use spells that often anyway.
Yeah,
No.
but you might want to still stock up. You don't know when you get to stock up next time.
I don't know if you know what holy water counts for in this sphere. That's going to be a limited resource.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Can
I'm gonna be fine.
Can any of you guys make holy water?
No, we need multiple
No.
priests of the same religion.
Yeah, it requires three priests of the same religion casting
Isn't it
spells
two?
simultaneously.
So also keep in mind that anything that any spells that need like surface plants, you may have trouble finding here.
Oh, my rose pearls for not sanctuary. Secret guardian might be running out then. I mean, they're dried and preserved, so but yeah.
Is
I
it
mean-
possible for spellcasters to research alternative spell components for those sort of spells?
It's possible, but it takes time.
And effort.
Well, if you found another spellcaster that could cast the same spell, could they just tell you you can use this instead of a rose petal?
It might not work for your spells.
Right, fair enough.
You might have to switch a few other things also around.
Like it to a certain extent, it may be a thing where their deity is granting, if they're priests, their deity is granting them slightly different spells that have the same effect, but have different components because they live in a different area.
I'm thinking about maybe you could see if you can pick up some rings of lead from a chaotic smith, since I imagine you might be able to find that here.
Got
Yeah, with no alignment spell, it should be a possibility.
a question for Lever
And
after.
maybe some silver mirrors.
When these guys finish, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's all I can think of. You can go ahead.
How much has Lever told us about her background in character?
I think we've been with each other long enough that we would have told all of our stories to each other by now,
Well, I don't. That's up to her to decide.
apart from Finn.
Yeah, it's just she seems secretive about some stuff.
That's just her nature, though.
I know. That's why I'm
It's
asking.
like Lafdul's.
That's why I'm asking how much she's told us.
What would she have? Well,
I mean, do we know? We know you speak the illithid trade tongue.
yes. No, you didn't know that before. That came out just now.
Right. Okay. So Braxon says, you speak Undercommon.
Yes.
You seem to have some sort of knowledge of illithids.
Yes.
Right. Have you done any sort of research that would allow us to get home not by doing deals with illithids, but could we use information from illithids somehow to get home?
That's an interesting idea. Old, what do you think?
Well, you know that illithids have an embassy on Brawl. And you have heard of Falx, and Thrasar had heard of Falx. The problem is that you would have to go through illithid space. Like, illithids are going to know, like, they may know some other routes, but if you were like, hey, illithids, we need to get to Brawl, they're going to be like, oh, okay, first you go through here, then you get to Falx space, then you go here and here and here and here, and then you'll be in Brawl. And it's like, if you want to go that route, I'm open to it. Just, it's going to be very dangerous.
Yeah, illithid might have a...
She passes that on to Braxon.
So you would know that, like, in Brawl space, illithids may attack you, they may not. They don't think of everything in Brawl as their property, obviously. If you're in an actual illithid sphere where they consider the entire sphere their property, and you come in and you're just like, hey, hi, we're just passing through, they're going to be like, no, you're in our space, you're our property now.
Oh, look, dinner is coming.
the illithid might have some personal angle in guiding us to their spheres.
Yeah.
Oh, you say you're a scholar, did you? Oh, yeah, I can definitely help you out.
Well, Leva would keep far away from the illicits as well because of her experiences. So she might think of all of that, but I'm not certain whether she'd actually tell it all. She'd certainly say it's too dangerous. Let's not do it.
Okay.
Yeah, based on Solas' personal experience, illicit tend to go for the tasty brains and destroy magic items. So let's not go there.
Right.
Well,
So
Leva has done trading with them. Otherwise, she wouldn't know the language. She hasn't done it for herself, but she's done it in for someone else.
But you've done it in non-illithid space where they're acting as,
Correct.
you know,
Yes.
visitors or guests, or certainly not the dominant people.
I don't think
Um,
she'd remember the time when she was actually taken by the illicits. That's too long
Yeah.
ago.
okay. Do you know of any other factions that might have dealt with the illithids that might be able to help us navigate around those spheres?
Would she?
I mean, lots of people have had contact with the illithids. The Seekers have contact with the illithids, for example. But whether any of them are here, you haven't heard of anyone here any groups here that sound familiar. So
Could,
What I'm
she
saying
could
is,
ask the Rusty, couldn't she?
yeah,
when he
but I
turns
mean,
up.
like, ask him what?
About the Seekers, whether he knows about them.
Oh, yeah, you could.
That language you spoke, is it spoken by any other people we might be a bit safer with?
Rustipede, yes, they're safer than the illicits. But I don't know, Leva doesn't know whether they are more common than the illicits. What do you think, Old?
Rastabedes are they're one of the spacefaring races. They're like Herwadi. They can be found almost anywhere, but they don't have. If they have any spheres, they aren't known where they are. Like there's clearly a diaspora of some sort. They have enclaves in a wide variety of places. They don't often have their own ships.
Mm.
So she'll pass all of that on to Braxon.
Okay. Well, basically, Braxton's looking for any sort of faction that might be here, that might also be in Brow Space or Grin Space or Realm Space.
Well, part of the problem is that you're definitely outside of the known spheres. What
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
would call the known spheres back home,
Yeah.
and most of the groups that you know are really only found in the known spheres, because if they're found outside of the known spheres, that would probably quickly become part of the known spheres, unless it's really
Yeah.
a frontier place where people just go to visit rather than stay and live and establish
Yeah.
themselves.
I'm
Also,
guessing. Go on.
also the thing that this is just the first port, and most likely we have to go through multiple ports to find this information, since this, while it's big port, doesn't seem to be the most central port.
Yeah, it's just the biggest, it's just the nearest convenient port.
Yeah, so I think before worrying about returning Brawl Space or leaving this sphere, we should most likely focus on learning about this sphere and how to navigate and where to go here.
Well, I was trying to find out who might be the most useful allies.
Currently, the most useful that we know is the Arcane.
Yes, I wouldn't say that, or Leva says that she would never consider illicits as allies.
No, definitely not.
And goblinoids are, you can deal with them, but they are risky.
All right. So
So-
any Any other things that you want to prepare for before he comes?
Lots of gold.
Okay, so Thrasar shows up at the appointed time, and he greets you, looking over the ship. He says, this is an interesting design. I have not seen its like before. It is not one that the Arcane typically sells."
Braxon says, actually, we purchase this via the Arcane.
Oh, yeah, but you would know that he means that it's not one that... I mean, like, they may get it and they may build it locally, but it's not one of the ones that they sell everywhere. Like, there are some designs that other people don't build. You have to go to the Arcane for. This is a human design.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So
Designed by a lady on Brow.
that's what I'm that's what I'm getting at, though.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, where do you wish to go first?
We should go and replenish our ingredients for the spellcasters.
Well, I suppose one of the best places to go would be to one of the temples.
We also need to visit craftsmen to purchase some arcane spell components.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Protector's
So-
docks may be the best bet for some of that. They do a lot of they do ship construction and repair, so they may be able to help you with that.
I need things like glass rods and such.
Well, right, but like, I mean, he's not a spellcaster. He doesn't know these things
Yeah.
offhand. He has made a
Yeah.
suggestion. You might want to go
Yeah.
there first and find out
Mhm.
what they can and can't do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Solas mentions that most likely need to visit places like smiths and such.
That's fine. He can take you there, but he made a suggestion on where to start with. So
Yeah.
Right.
And
well,
I think we should follow him.
anyone else have anything to say?
I agree.
Okay.
We should follow.
where
He
we
knows,
going?
he knows where we're going. Well, he knows best where things are, so we follow him.
Where are we going? To the place that makes the ships?
The Protector's docks.
Protected
Mhm.
docks. Oh, yeah. Can Braxon get some tools or something?
Yeah, you might be able to get there. I mean,
You've used up your tools.
No, I'm just thinking. Give him something to talk to the people there about.
well, keep in mind that you've got like two people who need to be involved in translation. So,
Yeah.
the less everyone
then-
is trying to take their attention, the better. Just as a side note.
Yep.
All right. So who's
And,
gonna go?
I'm going.
Lever
Mhm.
is going.
Finn's going.
Is Lafdul going?
Yes, Lafdul's going. Sorry, I was distracted.
During our trip, Solas would inquire if there's libraries in this
Right.
town.
Hey, Ockar, are you coming?
No.
Okay.
Braxton's
And-
going to
and-
come.
Ockar, did you make a list? Did you make a list of things that you need?
Yeah. Put it in the Discord chat if you need anything
Okay.
specific.
Give me a second.
Yeah. No. I mean, we'll have some time. So.
It's going to be break soon.
Yep, it is. All right, so you make your way to the Protector's docks. It is a large facility. Obviously, it serves as shipwrights guild and dry docks, ship construction, all that, and repair.
Can't really do anything with smithing stuff since I don't have a forge on the ship, right?
No, you can't. I mean, you can do
Like-
some basic stuff like maintenance, and if you have certain materials, you might be able to do things like with if you don't need to forge something, like you could do stuff with wire and stuff like that. But
Yeah, and basically, if you had a metal sheet, you would be able most likely to hammer it into a crude shape.
Does
I guess
Ockar-
I guess I'll throw in get some metal sheets of copper and iron.
'kay.
Yeah, I'll add that too.
All right, I'll get some prices for some of that then. You were saying something, Braxon?
Yeah, I was going to say, does Ockar want us to find out if there's a fee he could pay for using someone else's forge?
It's fine. I'd rather just have a forge on the ship.
Forge on the ship might be a little bit tough.
Maybe
Yeah.
we can trade our ship in for a dwarven citadel.
All right, so you make your way to the Protector's docks, and it is a bustling large facility when you get there. Kobolds like running everywhere, hammering nails in, lumber everywhere. Occasionally, clatter of stuff falling. Kobolds shouting in Kobold left and right. But as you make your way there, a middle-aged kobold with a white cap and like cloak and robes, just covered in pockets and pouches and tools hanging from his belt, like just equipment up, just covering his body practically. Like nails and
The gnome
pouches.
equivalent.
It kind of reminds you of gnomes, yeah. He comes up and eagerly starts speaking to your group in Kobold. And Thrasar translates back, and he says, yes, this is Shupal. He is the head of the Protector's docks. He is curious if you came from the new ship. The high
Yes.
one.
Yes,
So he
Braxton's
we-
going to bow.
we did. Yes.
Braxton's going to bow to him. Is there any sort of symbol that, sort of like a Freemason's gesture? that-
he's wearing an amulet that is shaped like a small pot or cauldron.
Right.
You've never seen that before, though.
Okay. But there's nothing Braxton could do as a shipwright to.
And if there
Okay.
were, it would almost certainly not. Like, even if there was something that crossed over between human shipwrights, it would almost certainly not apply to kobolds.
Fair enough.
Just pick hammer and sickle and put them in a cross formation.
So, Thrasar translates that back and then turns to you and says, he is very interested in learning some more about your vessel. He has never seen its like before. After your business is done, he would like to talk a bit about that, if that is okay.
If he's willing to serve as a guide, he could come aboard for a few days. If he
Braxton,
knows
you
the
might-
sphere.
Braxton, you might want to think of a trade.
Yeah.
You show him stuff, and he might sell stuff to us or something.
It sounds like I'm the shipwright, among other things. But it sounds like he might be more qualified than me.
I mean, he does it for a living.
He's the head of this whole facility.
Yeah.
And temple, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's it's still a favor that you just let him come on the ship and look around, or show him around.
Well,
And, limited showing around.
I'd be happy to answer questions.
So he thanks you through Thrasar, and then you kind of get into a bit of the details on finding out what services they provide. Number one, they do offer ship repairs, and Braxon, you do get a chance to look at the quote-unquote wood they have. It is their logs made of fungus, so like whereas normal wood you have the lines from the growth rings and everything like that, you have nothing like that on these. It's solid. It is hard. It is as far as you can tell, like you're feeling it, tapping on it, stuff like that, observing some of the uses, and talking through Leva and Thrasar.
Is it fire resistant?
No, it's not. It's no more than normal wood. But like rather than the grain of the wood, there's generally like tiny, not holes, but spots. Like you'd guess that they're like tiny air bubbles as it grew, kind of thing. And that's kind of the, instead of wood grain, that's what you get here. It doesn't affect its strength. It doesn't affect its like its waterproofness or anything like that. Although the lack of grain does make it a little bit more like it'll break a little bit differently. That won't matter in game terms, but
Can I
yeah.
roll spellcrafting know whether or not wood affecting spells would behave the same with this if it's representative of wood for all intents and purposes?
Yep, go ahead and roll.
Yeah.
No, you're not sure. You do know that at least some plant affecting spells do affect fungus.
If you mentioned about that in any way, so that Solas heard about it, Solas would say to Lafdul that you could buy a bit and try. I think buying one log of that would not be too expensive.
Well, they do sell lumber at the standard price, 50 gold pieces per ship's ton.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to buy, Braxon used some up, so you might, he may want to replace it to give you guys time to think about that. You had a question, Solas?
Yeah, could I make a paper making check and see if this could be used to make paper?
Fungal paper.
I mean, if it's
you would need to experiment with that. You would need to experiment with that.
Solas buys some to experiment.
You're not gonna get some tasty mushrooms for some alcohol, some fungal wine.
Nah, Solas isn't really into fungal alcohols.
Real fast, because we're about to take our break. I want to kind of run down the other standard things that they offer. They do ship repair. You don't need it right now, but in case you do, 1750 gold pieces per hull point per day, or 4,500 gold pieces per hull point per day if your ship has lost more than half its hull points. That is cheaper than normal.
Yeah, it's half.
It's not half. It's not half. It's
well, no, it's 3/4 or half, isn't it? If it's less than half.
No, the savings are.
Was that 1750 per whole point per day?
Yeah. It's normally 2,000.
Oh, I thought it was 1,000 for some reason.
So hang on. When you say 1750, you mean 1,750?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's where I was getting wrong. For some reason, I kept hearing it as 750.
Yeah.
No, 1750. And it's 5,000 normally, and they drop it down to 4,500. So it's a savings, and it's a pretty big savings overall compared to what the standard prices are. The kobolds are very proud of their fungal farms, their fungal forests on the stalagmite and stalactite that you can see in the sky above, kind of thing.
Right.
Solas mentions to Leva to basically tell our translator to compliment about these fungal forest farms.
She does that.
All right. They also sell heavy weapons, non-magical, and they make them themselves. They don't supply they don't sell ship supplies like food, water, all that stuff. You need to get that from other places, but they do. They do also sell fittings and other stuff like that. But Thrassar will also bring up spell components, and they do have some of that, but there's going to be a limit. They are priests, so they can give you supplies for most priest spells. They may be able to do some commission work for wizard spells. And anything that is, a surface thing like plants and leaves and stuff like that, that is all imported, and they do not have a whole lot of that at good prices. They do kind of say that the better places are on the Hobgoblin or Goblin ports. Because they don't... The kobolds here don't have a regular supply consignment with Outsphere traders for that sort of thing. The goblins and hobgoblins do.
What about guides? And did this person handle the guides?
They do not. That's done through the Portmaster's office.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the basic stuff. So they have a lot of the basic ship-related stuff. A lot of the other ship-related stuff you need to go to one of the supply shops. And if you have specific questions about spell components, I'll give you the break to think about that. And when we come back, we'll handle that purchasing.
Okay.
All right. So we are going to take our break now for the viewers. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Good time to get something to eat and drink. And we'll see you shortly.